1959, Hellboy is traveling on a high-speed train. He steps outside to smoke when something catches his attention and he is certain that he has heard a strange sound. Hellboy turns to his companion, Bobby Joe, saying, and asks if she heard it too. Bobby Joe dismisses the concern and another agent jokes that Hellboy is fearless. Hellboy ignores the joke and reminds him that he is there to ensure that what is inside the box remains safe throughout the journey to Fairfield. Returning to his seat, Hellboy sits on top of the box. The other agent, curious, asks what is inside and Bobby Joe says that it is a firewise, the most dangerous spider in the world, kept well contained. According to legend, the creature houses an evil entity and is linked to many mysterious incidents. Shortly after, Hellboy hears the same sound again and suddenly the box shatters. The spider escapes, brutally attacking and killing one of the agents. Chaos ensues and Bobby Joe quickly moves away to give Hellboy space to deal with the creature. However, a violent jolt causes Bobby Joe to nearly be thrown out. Hellboy saves her at the last moment, grabs his gun and aims at the spider, but the train derails and collides with the nearby forest. Hellboy and Bobby Joe recover and begin searching for the insect among the trees. Suddenly, the spider ambushes Hellboy. He attempts to fight back, managing to stab it with a branch, but the creature continues to resist. When the creature begins to shrink, Hellboy sees his chance to capture it, but it escapes again. Bobby Joe realizes that they are in the Appalachian Mountains where such creatures are common. Bobby Joe senses himself and Hellboy senses a dark presence lurking in the hills as if something sinister is watching them. He recalls a story his father told him about a being known as the Crooked Man. Hellboy remains convinced that the strange sounds he has heard are coming from this creature. Bobby Joe suggests that he find a phone to call for help and the two head to a nearby house. When a child sees him, he believes he is a demon and runs. However, the woman of the house recognizes him as a government agent. Bobby Joe explains that they have been in an accident and asks if there is a phone, but the woman says no. She invites them inside where she sees a child lying on the ground, feverish and sick. Hellboy suggests taking the child to a doctor, but the woman explains that the boy is not suffering from a common illness. The boy is cursed, possessed by a local witch named Kora Fisher. Shortly after, Tom Farrell arrives at the house explaining that the child has been throwing rocks at Kora's house, enraging her. In retaliation, Kora has cursed the boy. Tom displays a witch's ball he found at the scene, a powerful object linked to dangerous spells. After leaving the house, Tom offers to help find Kora. He explains that before she became a witch, Kora was his friend. However, he warns that the only way to cure the boy is by finding the correct spell. Tom plans to visit his mother before continuing the search, but soon receives the tragic news that she has passed away. Bobby Joe approaches Tom and asks if Kora knows anything about creatures like the spider that escaped. She also asks if they can join him in the search for the witch. The boy is cursed, possessed by a local witch named Kora Fisher. Shortly after, Tom Farrell arrives at the house explaining that the child threw rocks at Kora's house, enraging her. In retaliation, Kora cursed the boy. Tom displays a witch's ball he found at the scene, a powerful object linked to dangerous spells. After leaving the house, Tom offers to help find Kora. He explains that before she became a witch, Kora was his friend. However, he warns that the only way to cure the boy is by finding the correct spell. Tom plans to visit his mother before continuing the search, but soon receives the tragic news that she has passed away. Bobby Joe approaches Tom and asks if Kora knows anything about creatures like the spider that escaped. She also asks if they can join him in the search for the witch. As they wait, Hellboy shares some of his past, admitting that his mother was also a witch, though he never wanted to know her. Tom reveals that 15 years ago, he had an encounter with a demon. At the time, he had feelings for a woman named Effie and chose Kora instead. This woman tried to lure him into dark magic, but Tom resisted. One day, while cleaning a cat's water in the river, he encountered a terrifying figure called the Crooked Man. According to Tom, this man was once human and fought on both sides of the Civil War. He accumulated wealth by exploiting others, but his greed cursed him. After his execution, he was transformed into a soul collector for demons who were meant to gather souls for a penny with the promise of recovering his lost fortune. Tom says this frightening encounter led him to leave ISIS and enlist in the army. During the war, he realized that nothing could hurt him on the battlefield, even in the most brutal attacks. He attributed this good fortune to the cat bone Effie gave him as a protective amulet. Meanwhile, a raccoon enters the house and crawls inside Kora's empty skin, restoring her body and soul. The witch immediately comes to life, letting out a frightening scream. Hellboy tries to shoot Kora, but Bobby Joe stops him. He decides to go downstairs while Tom tries to calm the newly resurrected witch. Moments later, Kora reveals that she feels guilty about what happened to the child and confesses that she once had a family, but her husband and son are gone. Tom shows compassion and suggests that she rest, but Kora worries that no one is watching and the door suddenly opens. Hellboy goes outside to investigate and finds a woman covered in blood approaching. It is the witch and her daughter. Oddly happy to meet Hellboy, he orders that the only way to know the girl's real ages would be to cut off her legs. Tom warns Hellboy that he knows who he is looking for. The witch says that she tortured Kora and reminds him that she has unfinished business with the Crooked Man. Hellboy warns that if the Crooked Man wants to collect souls, he will have to go through him. The witch reveals to Tom that she turned his father into a horse to amuse herself while he was away. In the process, the witch floats and the horse suddenly falls. Tom runs to free his father, but as soon as he restores them, he dies in Tom's arms. At that moment, an insect kills Kora, causing her to faint, and Hellboy kills the insect. While he rests, Hellboy has a nightmare about his mother Sarah, a witch who was burned at the stake. At dawn, the group prepares to continue the hunt for the Twisted Man. Hellboy offers Tom help, but he refuses, saying that carrying his father's body was a burden he had to bear alone. As they continued their journey, Bobby Joang spoke with Kora, who, still tormented, explained that years ago she sold her soul to a demon, which condemned her to be pursued by the Twisted Man and lost her. As they continued on, the group was suddenly interrupted when Tom noticed that Kora had disappeared. They searched for her until Hellboy found her floating in the forest. There, they saw a snake crawling up Kora's leg and entering her mouth before biting her neck. Without hesitation, Hellboy intervened and pulled the snake out, but the reptile attacked him violently. At the same time, Kora, now possessed, attacked Hellboy. However, he managed to pull her away and kill the snake. Suddenly, Hellboy passed out and had a vision where he saw Kora entering a church. He followed her and Kora revealed that the woman floating in front of them was Hellboy's mother. At that moment, a large raven swooped down and told Hellboy that his mother had given herself completely to the devil. From this sacrifice, she fathered a son with a fallen angel destined to bring chaos and destruction to the human world. When Hellboy woke up from the vision, he was a little confused and Tom realized that Kora was dead. Her body sank into the earth. The group continued until they came to a cemetery where Tom planned to bury his father. He entered a church to speak with Father Watts who, although blind, recognized his voice. The priest mentioned that a girl had spoken of Tom's arrival. However, when he pointed to where she was, they saw only an empty chair. Tom realized that the voice the priest had heard was Kora's. He told the priest that he had come to bury his father in the proper place. Tom declared his intention to confront the Twisted Man. Suddenly, dozens of witches appeared around them. Kora sat down beside Tom and expressed her willingness to sacrifice herself to prevent more deaths. The priest warned them that if he was going to confront the Crooked Man, he would have to do so during the day, as the entity is more powerful at night. Hellboy noted that they still had a few hours before sunset, but without warning, the sun set and the priest said, "We are in his time." In the distance, they saw witches waiting for the right moment to attack. The priest began to pray while Bobby Joe spoke words of a powerful spell that made his glasses shake. The priest reminded Hellboy to have faith in the power of God. Hellboy replied that he would rather be prepared with a good Samaritan, reloading his weapon. Suddenly, Tom became frightened as he felt his father's hand touch him. However, it was Effie, trying to communicate from outside, warning that everyone in the church would die because of their actions. Tom went outside to see the witches preparing for the Crooked Man's arrival. The entity asked Tom if he had come back to see them, as it was time to claim the lucky bone that he possessed along with his soul. Hellboy stopped Tom, reminding him that although the Crooked Man seemed desperate, he would not give up easily. The Crooked Man offered to save Hellboy's mother in exchange for his soul. Enraged, Hellboy fired at him, but the entity easily deflected and used its power to break through the bars of the church and impale Hellboy. Bobby Joe ran to help, managing to drag him back inside. Meanwhile, Effie began torturing Tom and the Crooked Man tried to persuade the priest to hand Tom over in exchange for money, but to no avail. Bobby Joe carefully removed the bar from Hellboy's chest. The Crooked Man promised to restore the priest's sight, but the priest rejected the offer and began praying. So, the Twisted Man decided to raise the dead from their graves, even knowing he couldn't enter the church. Hellboy was determined to fight the zombies, but Bobby Joe tried to convince him to stay down due to his severe injuries. Suddenly, a coffin came through the doors. From inside emerged a woman moving strangely, trying to kiss the priest. Hellboy intervened, suggesting that she kiss the ground instead. As the Twisted Man continued to raise more dead, Hellboy began shooting at the zombies to keep them away. Soon, Tom's father rose from his grave and attacked him. Hellboy fought off the zombies while Tom was forced to kill his own father once more. The jerk priest prayed to God for his sight to be restored and at the same time asked Tom to deliver the cat bone. Tom agreed to use it as a weapon. The priest assured him that the bone contained magic that could unleash his power. So, he drew a cross on a shovel and handed it to Hellboy, giving him the power to send the zombies back to their graves. Hellboy left the church and confronted the crooked man, attacking him with a magical summons and generating a burst of light. When daylight broke, the enemy transformed into a bird and flew away. Hellboy saw this as the perfect chance to explore the crooked man's weakness and complete the mission. He asked Bobby Joe to find a phone, but she chose to stay with the priest. Meanwhile, Tom and Hellboy continued their journey to the crooked man's home. At the church, the priest mentioned that the hills seemed alive with countless tunnels, acting like veins and forming a type of circulatory system. Bobby Joe suggested that destroying this network could weaken or harm the crooked man as it could be the source of his power. Without explosives and sauce, she decided to use the magic she knew. Then, she asked why one of the mine entrances was damaged near the church. The priest explained that it symbolized a link between hell and earth. He offered to block this entrance and accompanied Bobby Joe to the mine carrying the magic shovel. Meanwhile, Hellboy and Tom arrived at the crooked man's house and discovered sinister photographs, including one of a snake emerging from Kora's body. They also found many dolls, and when Hellboy punched a wall, the sound of a baby crying echoed throughout the house. Hellboy prepared to investigate the source of the crying, but upon opening the door, the sound abruptly stopped. Inside, they found a table filled with luxurious dishes but with the food rotting. When Boy looked back, Tom disappeared and she reappeared in another location. Back at the mine, Bobby Joe sang and the priest climbed down. Soon, the cross on the priest's shovel began to glow brightly. Suddenly, they were surrounded by thousands of crows, forcing them to flee. The priest stayed back to give Bobby time to escape but was lifted into the air as the crows ripped out his eyes and took control of his body. At the same time, Hellboy went through a door and found himself in a vast darkness, illuminated only by the flames around his mother. Tom continued to explore the house and found who had tried to enchant him, recalling times they spent together. Tom used Cat's bone to try to hurt her, but Phil deflected and fled through the window. Meanwhile, Elby freed his mother from the flames. She expressed guilt for being a burden to him, but Helby replied coldly that he did not feel the affection she was hoping for and that if it were up to him, he would let her burn. Sarah begged him to end his life to free her, but Hellboy refused, preferring to sacrifice himself instead of her. Soon, he found himself trapped again within the walls of the house and reunited with Tom. Hellboy recognized that they had fallen into a trap by the enemies to force him to take his own life. Back at the mine, Bobby Joe was trying to escape when she found the small spider she had lost earlier. Bobby Joe began to pray, remembering the day her father died and focusing on the white room of the hospital where he had died. With this, she managed to overcome the dangerous spider. Then, she saw the small insect on the ground, trapped it in a green bottle and managed to escape. Meanwhile, Hellboy descended the stairs with Tom and they were immediately hit by a foul odor. Helby asked Tom to wait while he investigated. He soon found the crooked man devouring something. Helby took the opportunity to fire several shots but he deflected them all. At the same time, Bobby Joe tripped in a puddle that extinguished his flashlight, but a bright path guided him towards a youth in the house. Tom heard strange noises and saw Hellboy being thrown against a wall, struggling against an unseen force that knocked him down. The crooked man took advantage of Hellboy's weakness, spitting worms into his face that began to devour him. But acting quickly, Tom intervened and the weakened seer threw a witch's spear into his mouth, causing him to choke violently. Seizing the moment, Hellboy stood up and threw the crooked man down the stairs, scattering hundreds of accumulated coins. The crooked man laughed, guaranteeing eternal suffering, but Hellboy fired the final blow that destroyed him. On the way back, Hellboy explained that the obsession with the cat bone was a distraction. The power was in Tom. They heard the voices of the girls now, old and motherless, hiding in the trees. Hellboy found Bobby Joe unconscious in the church. She woke up with the captured spider completing the mission. They found a phone and the agency came for them. Tom transformed Effie into a horse with a warning on her